coffee and cream. Jimmy's on the mic. He's on your screen. From the house of Lakey Studios at the Lakey Entertainment Towers. The show starts now. Wake up and start your day with Jimmy Lakey. Unleashed. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Crank up the speakers. Tell all the neighbors. Feel that reach. Unfiltered. Unashamed, unafraid. Coast to coast we say God bless America. There's infotainment and brilliance on your way. Wake up and start your day with Jimmy Lakey. Unleashed. Yeah. Got my coffee and cream. Jimmy's on the mic. He's on your screen. From the house of Lakey Studios at the Lakey Entertainment Towers. The show starts now. Wake up and start your day with Jimmy Lakey. Unleashed. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Crank up the speakers. Tell all the neighbors. Feel that reach. Unfiltered. Unashamed, unafraid. Coast to coast we say God bless America. There's infotainment and brilliance on your way. Wake up and start your day.
All right, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to have you here, Brother Leroy, the Jimmy Lakey Mass Choir. The song got stuck on loop for some reason and just kept looping, but that's okay. Nice to have everybody here. How's everybody doing today? The day the Lord has made, Thursday, the 22nd day of January, year of our Lord, 2025. How many of you are expecting an ice storm where you are at? We are told that there shall be ice extraordinaire happening across a lot of the country. I got friends out in the Nashville area, and they're preparing. Sent me photos of the grocery stores, and dear goodness, they are all bumped down tight and empty out, and everybody's preparing. Some places say they get 3 to 6 inches of ice, possibly. I don't know if that's true. It looks like the swath of ice, for the most part, is going to go from eastern New Mexico into western Texas, swoop up to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. It's going to hit the Louisiana and the Arkansas border, and then head up towards Nashville. So that looks like the worst ice. We'll talk about that throughout the course of the morning, but if you're out there in the chat room, I know we have people all around the country, coast to coast and shore to shore. We all would like to have you check in, let us know how you are preparing for said snowstorm. I always, when these snowstorms hit, my son attends college in Missouri. I always check to see if the Missouri area is going to get some of this. They're going to get some snow and cold, but it doesn't look like they're going to get the ice. All of you Texans out there, are you prepared for the ice? Growing up in Texas, we rarely got a snow day. Every couple of years, though, you would get an ice storm. And if people say, well, Texans can't drive on ice, on snow, well, we don't get snow. You can drive on snow. Snow was not a hard thing to learn when I moved to Colorado to drive on. But in Texas, you get ice, and there is no solution for ice at all. It is just an absolute mess, and you slip and you slide, and it all breaks your trees down. It's awful, and power outages go on. So they are warning anybody in the swath of this potential ice storm to be very, very prepared, because the Arctic air that's coming behind the storm, not to get into too much weather geeky-ness, but it's going to last for a couple of days. So prepare your hearts. And as the screen says, ice, baby. I know we got lots of you in Texas out there on all the platforms that listen. And if you're in Texas, we'd love to hear how you are preparing for the ice storm. We'd love to hear your take on that. Feel free to jump into that conversation. No, Colorado, sunny. It's going to be cold, I think, this weekend, but sunny. We still don't have any snow. Still have no snow. We've had snow, and there's snow on the ground outside here at the Lakey Entertainment Towers, but it's not on the roads, and it's just kind of a dusting, and it's in just kind of the grassy knoll area. So anyway, glad to have all of you here. 22nd day of January, year of our Lord, 2025. Jimmy Lakey is my name. If you're new to the show, I've been unleashed from the confines of corporate radio, and now I sit in front of this camera and microphone 5 days a week. For your infotainment, I guess. And thank you for very loyal participants in the show. All right. I was saying a couple of weeks ago, talking to some friends, and they were mentioning certain things. That's a 2025 producer Chad says. See, it's on my show sheet wrong. I typed it wrong on the show sheet. And so sometimes I say 2026. Some of you just got really freaked out. Like, did I lose a year? Or did we travel back in time? What happened? No, it's 2026. Again, you usually get in the habit of changing your date mentally because you have to write checks. Well, now that we don't write checks anymore, it takes a while to get into it. 2026. All right. Sorry about that. Producer Chad, keeping me on the straight and narrow. Speaking of straight and narrow, you're going to like the question of the day today because it's going to ask about your children. And your children, and maybe it's their children, and we'll talk about that. Are they on the straight and narrow or not? We'll talk about that. I'll get to the whole topic in just a second. Trump. I still don't understand why it is that some people can't figure out that Donald John Trump is actually pretty predictable. This isn't about whether you like Donald Trump or you dislike Donald Trump. As you know, I like Donald Trump. But people say sometimes, I like the guy, but sometimes he's really brash. Don't you understand that's that's how he gets the stuff done. It's the whole art of the deal. So what does he says? I want Greenland. And everybody says, oh, you can't have Greenland. He says, oh, I'll send the military in to get Greenland. We need to protect NATO. It's about protection. It's all, we got Alaska over here. We got Greenland over here, Canada. We've got to build a golden dome so that we can do some great things to protect NATO and protect America. And there screams and hollers and military. And he just floats these ideas and everybody's going, oh my God, he's the bull of the China closet. He's going to hurt our European allies. They're never going to speak to us again. They're going to, and you're just freaking out. And I'm like, dude, it's the art of the deal. He's not looking, we talked about the history. Greenland has been talked about by American presidents dating back to the 1800s at the time that we purchased Alaska. The Americans were actually making public bids on buying Greenland. We've wanted Greenland for 100 years, 150 years, we wanted Greenland. In the Harry Truman administration, we actually offered $700 million in gold to buy Greenland. And we've tried for years. Donald Trump is just simply saying the quiet part out loud. Donald Trump is saying the quiet part out loud that Greenland is an area, a territory that we think we could benefit for our national security. And also there's some negotiation here. The rare earth minerals are there. And there's other things that would be beneficial to us. And so President Trump goes to Davos, or the Western World Economic Forum, and he shows up there and he's going to really hurt some people's feelings. I wish he would be so brazen. Well, that's how this is the art of the deal. Stop complaining about the brash personality of Donald Trump and understand that brash personality is what gets you the results. Now, maybe you don't like the results. You don't like the guy. Well, but if you do like the guy, then I have to tell you that it's those brash personality that gets that. So what happens? He's never going to get a deal. We're never going to go. He goes to Davos. He makes his opening speech, and he says, we've protected Europe for a long time. Done a lot of stuff. We've been putting money in there. Nobody's been contributing. Everybody else is kind of slack. We've protected everybody, and we don't ask for anything in return, but we're asking for Greenland, and we want a deal on Greenland. And we want to deal on Greenland. He's just being rude again. He's insulting them to their face now. And he talks about it. And then by the end of the day, it goes out on Twitter and in the news that NATO had sat down and said, NATO sits down and says, we've got a framework here that we can work with. And in the next couple of months, we're going to put it together so that the U.S. can have what they want and get what they need out of Greenland. And whether it's going to be a territory or a state or whether it's going to be Danish, it doesn't matter. Donald Trump says, I got what I wanted. And so I just wish all of you folks out there would stop your panicking and apologizing for Donald Trump. You're a fan of Donald Trump, but you get into social circles. You're like, I know he's brash and stuff, but no, that's that the reason you like the results that you get is because Donald Trump practices the art of the deal. And I said from the very beginning that the art of the deal was underway, the art of the deal was being practiced, and Donald Trump was actually 100% playing the art of the deal. So throw that out there. It has been announced. I'll give you what we do know about this thing is that there has been a deal on Greenland struck with NATO announced yesterday. Everybody said it couldn't be done. Listen, Donald Trump accomplished. Think of this. We've been trying to buy Greenland since the 1800s. Harry Truman tried to buy Greenland. I mean, ever since Alaska was purchased as a territory, we have been trying to get Greenland, and we have never been able to get it. Harry Truman offered $700 million of gold for Greenland, and we couldn't get it. Donald Trump steps in his first year in office, and he accomplishes something that presidents have been trying to do. Republicans and Democrats, the Whigs probably tried to do this. Everybody's been trying to do this for a long time, and Donald Trump figured out how to do it. He announced a Greenland framework has been agreed upon with NATO General Secretary General Mark Rutte. The NATO chief said, told special report last night on Fox News with Brett Baer, the use forcibly taking control of Greenland was not discussed during the meetings between him and Trump in Switzerland during the World Economic Forum. That issue did not come up in any of my... I don't think I'm getting my headphones right. Something is not right, producer Chad, so we'll have to play through this. Something's not right on my connection because everything's playing through my computer. Very strange. It's very strange. Anyway, Marco Rubio is going to be a part of this whole thing. They're all going to check it out and try to make this thing work. But yeah, the framework has been reached, and stop belly aching, stop kvetching, stop freaking out. Everything's gonna be okay. I tell you that Donald Trump practiced and exhibited the art of the deal. And think of that, don't like him or not. Donald Trump accomplished what Harry Truman was not able to accomplish. Donald Trump accomplished what previous presidents have never been able to. We tried to buy Iceland and Greenland at the same time that we bought Alaska, and we didn't succeed on that. So suck it up, Buttercup. The agreement has been there, and all of the naysayers out there can just go pound sand. Go pound sand. All right, I got a question. Question of the day has nothing to do with Donald John Trump. It is simply a question that I think is a very profound question for all of us to answer. Do you allow your children, your kids, to curse? This brings up it's a topic of conversation. I'd like to find out, do you allow your kids to curse? You say, what brought about this question? Well, actually, somebody did a survey on the whole cursing kids thing. And the survey reads, and this is the survey in a poll, 47% of parents say profanity is never, ever, ever okay with their children. Another 47% say it depends on, maybe there's an occasion that the kid might let a foul word. And 6% say kids swearing is no big deal. And 45% of parents say their kids probably picked up their cursing from the example that the parents set. So if you confront your kids about profanity, what would they respond? Would they say, I learned it from you, Dad? Like those old drug PSAs. Remember, I learned it from you, Dad. Why are you taking the meth? I learned it from you. A poll asked parents of children 6 to 17 years of age about their attitudes on kids swearing. 47% of parents say profanity is never okay with their kids. 35% of parents say, well, it depends on the situation. 12% think it depends on the word. There's the swear word. And 6% say swear words are no big deal. Parents of teenagers 13 to 17 are more likely to say it depends on the situation, while parents of younger children age 6 to 12 are more likely to say that swearing is never cool. Most parents claim that their children or their child, 44% say they rarely or never curse. 32% say maybe a little bit. 24% say their child swears occasionally or frequently. Why do they do it? 41% say their kids are using bad words out of habit. 37% they use words to fit in with other kids. 36% say they're trying to be funny. 21% say they're trying to get attention. And so here's the question. Of all the parents out there, 65% of the parents think their child learns profanity from their classmates. 58% say the media made it popular. They learned the curse words there. And 45% of parents admit that they probably learned the curse words from hearing themselves, the parents, speak those words. So here's a question. Do you fall into the 47% that say it's never okay for your child to curse? Do you fall into the 47% that say it depends on the situation? Or are you about the 6% that say never, ever, ever should my child curse ever? Thank you very much. And it's a bad, bad thing. And to hell they will go. Now, I remember, if you remember growing up, my parents were not cursers at all. I mean, occasionally my mom would freak out or something, and she would say, damn it. Sometimes she would say, damn it. And sometimes my mother would use the S word. The S word, she'd use that. She'd get mad. Clean this stuff up. Stuff. That's what she'd say. But that was just like, I don't know. She'd lose her mind every once in a while. And I tell you that I remember I remember walking to elementary school. I heard some kids curse one time, and then I saw this. I remember this phenomenon. I remember I saw some kids like flipping middle fingers at each other, like in 4th or 5th grade, and I walked to school that day, and I'll never forget walking to school, probably 9-year-old Jimmy, and I remember they had their fingers in such a weird concoction and position that I'm walking to school. I'm not going to hold them up, but while I walk to school with my little backpack on, I'm walking home from school, and I'm flipping the ground off. I'm trying to see how they bit those other fingers and stuck that middle finger in the air, but I was never going to show anyone that. I saw them do it, and I wanted to see what it is, and I didn't even know. I just knew it was a bad sign. And then I remember going to middle schools where it really hit. And in middle school, by about the 6th or 7th grade, the kids, I was like, oh my God, he used an S word there. He used a F word. I was shocked by it. I mean, and so occasionally as like a 6th or 7th grader, I might throw in, darn it, damn. I didn't know how to curse. I didn't even know. But I do remember when all the kids were using the bad words. Sometimes as a kid, you're like, oh, I don't even know where do you throw a curse word in? I just wasn't raised around it. And I remember as a middle schooler walking home or sitting in my room going, saying bad words, just real quiet to see if I like got struck with lightning. I didn't really use them in conversation. I'm not a prolific profanity guy now. I mean, I'm not going to say that a wordy nerd has never slipped off my tongue. I'm not going to say that at all. But I'm just asking, do you let your kids curse? Kevin jumps in and says, if I curse by any standpoint, I was knocked into next week. Our Lois says, we don't curse and neither do our kids, even as adults now. That's just the way it is. Rachel says, our sons were told that they could say anything their father said, so swearing was almost never heard in their home. Notorious says this, anybody ever get your mouth washed out with soap? This is how innocent I was. I didn't curse. My sister was always the hellion. I was a pretty well-behaved child for the most part. And one time I was probably 10, and I said a bad word, and I said, I wonder if because I knew my mom would wash my mouth out with soap if she needed to. And so I tasted the soap. I wasn't smart, okay? I just want to see it. Oh, that's gross. I did this. So that was nasty. All right. Glad to have you here on the program. Stacy says, I just missed that one. Sorry. I don't have a children, but my nephew practically lives with us. I don't encourage him to cuss. He's such a great 13-year-old. You don't encourage him to cuss, but does he use the curse word? Kevin says, Mom and Grandma would give me castor oil. Was that because you were not regular or you had the flu or because you were cursing? I don't know. I don't know what you do with castor oil. All right. Glad to have all of you here on the program. Jimmy's my name. My headphones are shot. I hope I can hear my guests that are coming up because something has gone wrong and awry. So if I don't know if I sound, I'm guessing you all can hear me. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you people being a part of it. Yeah. It looks like there's some doubters out there. Scroll the screen a second ago. Just look it up. You don't need to be in your mama's basement with your blue hair, wait with your Subaru warming up in the driveway, saying that it's untrue that presidents have been trying to buy Greenland for a long time. Sorry to break the news to you. It goes back. We tried to buy it around the time with Alaska, and President Truman offered $700 million in gold. So you can call names all you want from your mama's basement, but you don't have to. Just go look it up. Study. It would be a good thing. Study. It'd be really good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, social media platform phenomenon, Pickaxe. We've had Jeff on before. I hope you have signed up. I have signed up. I've been so busy. We have not dialed in our Pickaxe. We're on it. It's on my 2026 list. Please welcome Jeff Dornick back to the program. Jeff, good morning. Happy New Year, sir.
Good morning. Happy New Year to you as well.
That's weird, producer chat. I can hear him, but everything's playing. All the sounds are playing off. Something screwed up on my computer. But hey, I'm glad I can hear you. That was my fear that I was not going to hear you, and we're going to have to do sign language together.
Yeah. That would have been very interesting because I am awful at sign language. So
I am too, and I was just talking about as a kid learning how to flip people off. So that's about the only sign language I knew, and that would not be polite or in good company. Jeff, first of all, not a lot of new listeners, a lot of new viewers throughout the day. Thousands and thousands of earballs listen to the show every day. For those who aren't familiar, you started a media company, social media company called Pickaxe. I'll let you kind of tell the story, then we'll get a couple of news stories.
Yeah, definitely. So with Pickaxe, we're actually launching the app next month. I'm setting the date probably in the next couple of days. We'll be making the official announcement. But you guys could actually sign up right now at pickaxe.com, pickax.com. But the really cool thing about this is it's a social media platform. I always explain it as it's a hybrid between X and Substack, and then with Rumble integration as well. And but the whole idea is not only is it a free speech platform, but we're also not playing the algorithmic manipulation game that all the rest of the social medias play. So if you actually earn an audience, then they're actually going to see your content, which is very unusual now in the social media space. Especially, X just came out with their new algorithms the other day, and they did open source. And you look at it, and now the number of followers that you have on social media and on X mean zero, mean zilch, mean nothing when it comes to whether your posts are going to get seen or not. So why we even encourage following us on social media anymore, I don't really know. But we're bringing that back onto Pickaxe. So that is how you control your newsfeed, is by who you follow. It makes logical sense. So we're building this out. It's a lot of fun. We're creating a really cool community of people. But also we're also helping content creators to be able to expand their reach, build their shows up, promote their Rumble channels, as well as monetize with it within Pickaxe as well. So we got a lot of things happening, and it's gonna be really exciting, especially starting next month.
I think that's important. The algorithm is rigged. We know that from this show. We had a couple of posts recently go what we consider in the meta world viral. Most recently, and our page has really picked up a lot of audience. But it's kind of funny. I've got all this new audience, a lot of new audience, and we checked them. We've spot checked. They're not bots; these are real human beings, and many of them do participate. But you would think, with the exponential growth that we've had on this show in the last 2 weeks, that we would see some different things. But it's not. It's almost as if we're hidden in the algorithm. And just because someone hit like, it doesn't mean they even know we go live every morning. I mean, they're just what they see is determined by Zuckerberg, I guess, is not determined by what you signed up for.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem that I think that we're facing now on all of the social medias now, is that they're not, when you think about it, they're not actually social, because you by definition, with the way that they do these algorithms, you cannot build a community of people on social media anymore. Basically the algorithms decide who sees what content. Again, the people that follow you, it doesn't really make a difference, because they're just trying to find if and where they feel like your content can and should be seen by somebody else. And that somebody else could be somebody in New Jersey, could be somebody in California, could be somebody that's never even heard of you before, and then it's going to pop up in their feed. It has zero bearing on anything that you actually control, which is really interesting, because they're making this bigger deal about, it's free speech. We're helping you guys to monetize on these platforms. Okay, but if you guys with the algorithm control what of my content actually gets seen, then what really, when you think about it, like, how can I as a content creator actually have any say at all in whether and how much money I'm making, and how much money I'm making from your revenue share on these platforms? Because it has zero to do with me and everything to do with whether the algorithm likes your content, wants your content to be seen. And if you're outside the Overton window, as I oftentimes am, then you're definitely not getting seen. I mean, I've got something like 35,000 followers on X, and I'm lucky if I get triple digits on posts anymore, because I'm talking about AI. I'm pushing alternative viewpoints and kind of challenging the mainstream narrative. And so guess what? Your stuff doesn't get seen nearly as much.
That's important. To be a content creator, an opinion guy, a news guy, you need to pay attention to this, because producer Chad and I fought about this, and not with each other, but just been baffled. We had a post last week, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, that went pretty viral. Millions of people have seen it. And you're like, what was the magic sauce in that one? There was no rhyme or reason. Did we write the right caption? It just suddenly went viral, and we are glad it did. But you sit here all the last 2 weeks, we've been trying to recreate the magic, and you just can't do it. There's some algorithm toying with me, Jeff. They're just messing with me. And you think now, if you're the consumer, you think, am I the only one that thinks this way? I'd like someone to... I'd like to hear voices that agree with me. You're like, well, no one must agree with me. Nothing pops up in my feed. It's almost like the algorithms are going to make you feel isolated and feel alone and feel you're kind of out there in a fringe world there. You probably better change your thoughts. It's almost indoctrination.
It is. The algorithms have so much control, and I think that when you think about it, it's actually more dangerous with the algorithmic manipulation for society and for our human thought and the way that we think through things than it was under Jack Dorsey when they were just kicking you off the platform. Because at least then, you said something, that they deemed unworthy, you were kicked out. You could go over to a chamber and you could still have free speech. You wouldn't necessarily change your viewpoint or mind. But now what they're doing is they're dangling the carrot of views and impressions and monetization, and they're not going to kick you off if you necessarily say something wrong, although they technically kind of still are. But what they're actually doing is they're getting you to self-censor, because if you want to get seen more, then you're going to play within this little Overton window that they're offering. And also when you think about it, with how divided our country is and how isolated everybody is, just in general with social media over the last several decades. I mean, we've become very much less actually spending time face to face with people and much more in the digital world and the online world. And so we're all kind of already separated and we're already divided and not really a lot of human contact. But now they're taking away what little human contact we actually have now on the social media platforms themselves, because your audience, the people that follow you and the people that you follow, again, there's zero really opportunity for you to create a community with those people, because those people are not going to be the ones that are necessarily seeing your content. It's going to be who the algorithms allow to actually see your content. So when you think about it, we're taking away even more of that human to human connection. What's that going to do to the psychology of American people? What's it going to do to our thought process? How is that going to even further divide us as a country in how inflamed the rhetoric is and how much everybody hates each other and the whole deal? How much worse is it going to get now with the way that these algorithms work and the way these social media platforms are working?
The voice of Jeff Dornick, if you're listening later to the program on the podcast platform, Spotify, iHeart, Podbean, Apple Podcasts. Maybe you're watching right now or watching on the platforms so you can see it. You see his name, but it's Pickaxe. We'll talk about the way to sign up. The app is coming soon. It's desktop right now, new social media platform, and it's built on uncompromising principles of freedom of speech and freedom of reach. It's the voice of Jeff Dornick, the founder and the CEO. Jeff, we haven't talked in a little bit of time, but I know a couple of weeks ago, I think our schedules wouldn't work out. I wanted to talk to you. Trump said that he has a new housing plan, and he wants to ban institutional investors from scooping up single-family homes. I reached out a couple of weeks ago, but you were not available to talk about this topic. Give me your thoughts. Are we going to be able to reshape the American dream? There's a lot of folks hanging out on social media. Some of them just sit in their mama's basement because they're like, I'm never going to be able to own a home. I'll just live in the basement. Give me your thoughts, this housing plan and some of these ideas that President Trump is floating out there.
Yeah, realistically, with the housing plan, it's good in theory, but in implementation, there's not really going to be that much of a difference. So when you actually look at the housing plan that he's putting forth, he's basically saying that large institutional investment companies and all that kind of stuff, they can't just go in and scoop up all the homes as they were during COVID and asking 20% more than asking price and paying cash, all that kind of stuff. And so that would only be allowed for the small firms. The problem is that at the same time that they announced this, which again, in theory is good, it's a great headline, they redefined what a small and large, investment or asset management or whatever the terminology is. They redefined what it is to where now you're considered a small investor, I believe, if you have less than $1 billion in assets, whereas before it was something like 200 million, right? So they increased the number so that way more larger companies can actually continue to gobble it up. But then when you actually think about it, let's say BlackRock wanted to continue to do this. Clearly, they're worth more than $1 billion, right? All they do is you set up an LLC that has less assets than that cutoff, and then that LLC, which is a subsidiary of BlackRock or whatever the large entity is, can go in and continue to gobble up the homes. And then we maxed out what we're allowed to do. We can start another LLC that's a subsidiary. Yeah. We could do it again and again and again. So it's good in theory. It's a great headline, but in practice, I don't think it's really going to make that much of a difference.
Jeff Dornick, pickaxe.com. If they sign up for Pickaxe, you're doing your own podcasting. I know you and Dinesh D'Souza get together regularly. Folks should give you a follow. And what's the best way to do that? And what's the best way to sign up for Pickaxe?
Yeah, definitely. So you guys can follow my show on Rumble. It's the best place to tune in. I'm going live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock Eastern. Today I actually have a leftist, political cartoonist and columnist Ted Rall coming on the show. We're talking about why political movements on both sides of the aisle really don't take hold, and it's kind of the establishment parties on both sides, will continue to have power. So we dive into that and the psychology behind it and all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be really fascinating, really interesting conversation. But look up the Jeff Dornick Show on Rumble. You guys can Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock Eastern. And then you guys can sign up at Pickaxe, which is PICKAX.com. Sign up on the web version right now. You guys can set up your profile. You guys can start engaging with people. We got Children's Health Defense on there, Vigilant Fox, Ann Vandersteel, Shannon Joy, a bunch of amazing people already on the platform. But that way, you guys set up your account now, then you're ready to rock and roll once we launch the app next month. So make sure you guys do that. And if you guys sign up, send me a DM on Pickaxe, and then I will hook you guys up with the beta app. That way you guys get early access to that.
Jeff, there we go. I think we went all max headroom on everybody. I don't know if that's my connection or your connection, but here we are. Jeff Dornick, pickaxe.com. Send him a DM and he'll give you a follow as well. Jeff Dornick, appreciate you hopping on the program. I don't know if my computer's freaking out today or if it's his. I don't know, but audio's going crazy in my ears, and I'm just I'm going to make it through, though. I'm a broadcast professional, trained, highly trained, kind of. No, I never got any training. When I first got into radio, they sat me in front of a board because I had a nice voice, a radio board, and they say, hey, you have your own morning show. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know how to turn a micro. I literally did not know how to turn a microphone. I was literally the man on the streets that they thought had a nice voice, and I didn't know how to turn the microphone on. I seriously, that's a true story. I had no clue how to do that. All right, my audio is going crazy. I hope everybody can hear me because I'm not hearing much at all in my headphones, and maybe my headphones broke. I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in our next guest of the morning so that I'm not rambling to echoes in my ear. Salvador Litvak, he's the author of Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time. Also the director of the action film Guns and Moses. We haven't had Sal on quite a while. He kind of got busy. Sal Litvak, welcome back, sir.
Jimmy, it's great to be with you. I think we have something in common. You have a voice for radio, and I have a face for radio.
Well, I didn't want to say that. Me having a face for radio was unspoken. Although, Delilah, give me credit, I did have a TV show, Frontier Taste and Tales, one season, then COVID hit. So, it's all right. Sal Litvak, great to see you here. First of all, give the update. Last we knew, Guns N' Moses was still out there rocking and rolling, and you're trying to get it out to more people and more ears and eyes. Give us the update on Guns N' Moses.
Well, thank God it's a word of mouth hit. It's available on Amazon Prime with subscription to everybody who has Prime, and a lot of people do. But if you don't, you can buy or rent on Apple or YouTube TV, Google Play, all platforms. And people are loving it. I mean, it's an edge of your seat mystery thriller with the great Neil McDonough, Christopher Lloyd, Mark Feuerstein, and Dermot Mulroney. And, it's not your typical Hollywood thriller. It's the production value of a Hollywood thriller without the godless values of this town, pro-faith, pro-Second Amendment, and delivers on all fronts. So people are enjoying the film.
I want to talk about Hollywood. You talk about the godless values of Hollywood. My son was sometimes when he comes home from college, he sometimes just likes to sit on the couch, be at home, and he will binge watch a season of a show or two seasons of a show just during a break. That's just kind of his relaxation on the couch in the main living area, just like he did when he was a little kid. So he likes to return to those roots. And he got into this show called Stranger Things, and I sat down and watched part of it, but because I missed the front of Stranger Things, I don't sometimes understand the middle of it. But just to be with him, I'll sometimes sit down and watch an episode and go, what's happening? And I think he'd prefer me not be there because I'm asking too many questions. Like, go back and watch it yourself, Dad. The fifth season, and I think I don't know if he's watched the fifth season, but I started reading about Stranger Things and all the media, and I said, my son knows this show. It must be a big deal. There's a character by the name of Will Byers, and he gathers his friends and family, and all of this kind of innocent. The monsters are out there, whatever's out there. The whole fifth season, it's because Will is gay. Will's come out of the closet. And again, I don't care what your proclivities are, but they wrote that into the script as if it had any relevance to the story. And I'm sitting here going, about the time I think, like Rob Schneider says, if you go woke, you go broke. He's been interviewed recently saying, we think we're getting back to comedy. They still write these little messages in that are really not necessary. Is Hollywood ever going to learn anything about sometimes you don't even have to go there?
It's hard to see them learning that, right? I mean, the whole place is riddled with DEI hires who just keep getting promoted up. You know, when somebody's incompetent at their job, normally you fire them, but in Hollywood they get promoted just to get them out of your hair so they can go do something else, and then they end up running the show. So I don't know. You know, we thought I don't even know why we did this, but we submitted our film to the Oscars. Right, for sure. Guns N' Moses is not what Hollywood is looking
it's not going
for
to work there.
to give an Oscar. But the submission process was quite telling. You know, it's like there was much more, information and questions asked about how you satisfy diversity requirements. You know,
Wow.
gender, nationality, race, like all kinds of boxes to fill in and explain. But just like one little box, like, you know, what is the subject of your movie? What is the story of your movie? What are the performances like in your movie? So I don't know. I don't see it happening. I think what's interesting is, Netflix, which is just so woke, top to bottom craziness. They have to introduce that into everything that they do. But they're so powerful. Apparently, they have 300 million users. I mean, I thought that people might be getting a little bit sick of the woke agenda, but it's not happening. So they're bigger than all the other studios combined. And, you know, they're trying to snap up Warner Brothers now. Maybe Paramount Plus, which is a much more sane company, can get in the way of that. But I don't see Hollywood changing anytime soon. What I do see is that the audience is hungry for other content. Something we saw last year was House of David. What a great show. You know, what an amazing quality of show to tell the story of young King David coming up. And we enjoyed that very much. You know, so Kingdom Story Company, Angel Studios, my own company, Pictures from the Fringe, Sean McNamara, who made Soul Surfer and a bunch of other movies. There are people out there working to, it used to be, I think, that movies for the faith audience or for the, traditional values audience were pretty cheesy and low quality. That's over. There is very high quality content now with good values, but people have to seek it out and then reward it for being there by supporting those kinds of films. So I really encourage people to watch Guns N' Moses.
Yeah. The website's right there on the screen. Is available on Amazon, and you can get it on Apple, etc. But look for Guns N' Moses. Somebody on the YouTube posted, that's not what the whole season's about. I don't think they intended to be a question mark, but sometimes when they're rage typing, they put question marks and misspelling. So I think, did you watch it? I'm sensing judgment here. No, I said I did not watch it. I read that that's what the episode was about. I didn't say the whole season. The point is not whether it's the whole season. The point is, if it's a good show, my son's watching it, everyone's liking it. Why do you have to even go there? No, it doesn't add to anything about the overall theme of Stranger Things from everything that I'm reading from what critics say. So why do they continue? Is it just these DEI hires? They live in a bubble in Hollywood and they think, oh, we've got to write that in. We've got to write. You don't have to write that in at all. I mean, it's just gratuitous references to sexuality. It could be. My mom used to not let us watch those because that had, quote, a gratuitous sex scene. We still throw a lot of gratuitous stuff in there that's just not necessary for the overall storytelling. Why? Is it because they think people want it, or are they pushing their own agenda?
I think it's two things. They want to get invited to the right cocktail parties, and they're more afraid of their own interns than what the audience thinks, right? They're more afraid of being canceled. It's just like the comedy on these late night talk shows. It's not comedy. They're not going for laughter. They're going for clapter. Did you say the approved talking points? Oh, good for you. You did so good. And I think like Rob Schneider is saying, and Ricky Gervais is always saying, comedy dies in political correctness, or whatever they're calling political correctness these days. But the number one responsibility we have as entertainment professionals is to entertain. If the audience is not entertained, then what are we doing?
Yeah. You mentioned the Netflix deal. I'm a Netflix subscriber. I got the lowest version when they gave tiers because I don't watch it that much. I actually keep it so my son can watch. He watches it much more than I do. I don't watch a lot of television. So I have it. And when I heard that they were trying to that what big players they were in the studio. I had no clue. I thought they were. I'm kind of picturing the little red box in the corner that Redbox had, and then you had Netflix that was streaming. I didn't know they had grown to be so huge. Talk about this offer for Warner Brothers, and if it goes through one way, what does that mean for the industry and the studios? And you mentioned Paramount Plus maybe be able to block some of this. Why is it important that we who like watching and entertainment and we watch shows, why is it important that we pay attention to this Netflix deal? I had no clue they were so big.
I think it's important because if it goes through, they'll be removing one more decision maker from the equation, right? So it's just fewer heads at the top. If they're all monolithic in the values that they're pursuing and espousing, then that's all we're going to get, right? I mean, you need to have a multiplicity of voices and producers. At the end of the day, producers run the town, executives run the town, the money runs the town, right? So, and what's been interesting about that is you would think that since half of America is not so happy with the values that Hollywood is always promoting, that they would say, well, there's a lot of money to be made from this half of America. And there certainly are people who are paying attention to that. You got Taylor Sheridan making Tulsa King and Landman, and he's certainly not part of this woke mafia. And he's incredibly successful. So I think that they're showing the way. It just takes a little bit of time for this, Titanic to respond to the audience. But on the other hand, you look at these awards. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't watch the Golden Globes. I'm probably not going to watch the Oscars because they're so boring.
Yeah.
But when you look at the next day at what's winning, it's the same old story. It's just the same old story promoting, that trans is the highest on the victim poll. And therefore, we have to reward anyone who's in that camp. And then who's next highest on the victim totem pole? Let's reward them. But on the end, there's hope. There's hope. I did watch a Netflix movie. I like to watch action movies when I'm working out on the elliptical. And I just saw this movie, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. I don't know them personally, but they have a new movie called The Rip. It's fun. It's an action thriller. It's not about these values. I think it's based on a true story about crooked Miami cops and straight Miami cops, trying to make their way in that moral quagmire. And it wasn't really about any of these woke issues. So that was a fun movie.
It seems like, remember a couple of years ago, recently, even more recently, Disney was putting out cartoons and shows that people weren't going. They were tanking at the box office after spending millions and millions of dollars and billions of dollars. And, it was all, they were just putting these DEI issues that were unnecessary. You want to take your 8, 9, 10-year-old to a princess movie and not indoctrination movie. It seems like Disney had to make some changes. If I recall, don't remember exactly. It seems like they had to kind of back off that. The Hollywood studios don't seem to be backing off.
No. Superhero franchises, that's been totally taken over by this stuff. There's a lot of indoctrination going on in America at all times. Just think how much worse it would be if Donald Trump had not been elected, if America hadn't spoken, so loudly and resoundingly. We're just talking about entertainment today, but I mean, I was just listening to an interview, if we could switch gears for a second,
Sure.
About what's going on in Israel, right? And that for decades now, the foreign news bureaus are covering the conflict between between Israel and the Palestinians as if this is one of the biggest conflicts on earth, right? That is a local conflict. There's 300 million Arabs. There's 2 billion Muslims. Israel is this tiny little backwater, the size of New Jersey. All it really wants to do is be allowed to exist. If the Palestinians didn't keep attacking, there would be no conflict even with them. But somehow Israel keeps getting painted as the bad guy, and there's enormous resources being devoted to casting Israel as the bad guy, much more than the entire continent of Africa. And seemingly, as much news is coming out of Israel as is coming out of all of Europe to America. Why? Why is that? Why is so much money and resources being spent on casting Israel as the bad guy? What is the agenda that's going on there? What are we being distracted from? Who is paying for that? There is an enormous amount of money that's been put into the American system. to convince people that Israel is bad. And now it's just not even Israel is bad, Jews are bad. And somehow that whole intersectional culture that if you support trans, you must be anti-Israel. If you support gay people, you must be anti-Israel. Whereas Israel is the only place in the Middle East where it's safe to be a gay person or even a trans person. I mean, none of this makes sense until you start following the money, and who is putting the money, who's injecting the money into our system to tell us, how we should be feeling about issues that would otherwise fall a very different way here.
Yeah. Anybody who feigns a death war is a horrible thing wherever it happens. But you watch all the students at the Ivy League schools, Columbia, they were out there supporting, gays for Palestine. It's like, I think you've said, that's like chickens for KFC. It was some weird protesting. Yeah, they're shutting down the campus, harming and harassing Jewish students, all because they really view the sanctity of life and they're standing up for humanity. And yet we've had the numbers of death and massacres and genocide that happened in Iran in the last couple of weeks really is staggering. It's higher than what these people were protesting out of the Ivy League. And there was not a protester out there. We stand with Iran. It's because they didn't get their marching orders. They were indoctrinated that Israel's bad, Palestine's good, and Iran, we don't care. Our lords told us this, and this is what we get upset about. I mean, the hypocrisy between the two is very telling.
Extraordinary. I think more people have been killed in Iran in the last couple of weeks than were killed in the entire 2 years of the Gaza conflict. And these are people just out in the streets saying, support us, help us. We got to get rid of this crazy totalitarian government that is stuffing, the harshest, most draconian Islamist Sharia law measures down our throats. I mean, Iran was not naturally a Muslim country at all. It was a modern, member of the world community. And my God, they're just killing them in the streets. Now, what I think is really interesting is President Trump is not Obama, right? Obama, in Syria, if you gas your people, that's a red line and we're going to get involved. And they crossed that red line and he did nothing. Trump has said very strongly, he's going to support the people of Iran, and it hasn't happened. But I would not say that Donald Trump is not a man of action.
Yeah.
So I have no inside knowledge whatsoever. But it seems to me like you can't, create regime change unless you have someone waiting in the wings to become the new leader. And I would think that behind closed doors, there's a lot going on to, God willing, set that up.
Right there on the screen is your X feed. Also, your website was up there, Guns N' Moses Movie. That was there, gunsandmosesmovie.com. People need to go watch it on Amazon. Prime members, if you're on Apple, whatever, you find it. It's out there, gunsandmosesmovie.com. Sal Litvak, a pleasure, sir. Thanks for hopping on the program with us. Salvador Litvak, filmmaker, producer extraordinary. We always appreciate his time. Gunsandmosesmovie.com. Go check it out. All right, very quickly, my friends, glad to have you all here on the show. I want to welcome in who's patiently waiting, Mr. Tim Martin. He is with the John Birch Society. Tim's with us earlier this week, I believe. And boom, here we go again. Speaker, marketing director, John Birch. Welcome back in, Tim, twice in a couple of days.
Pleasure to be back.
I want to dive into this story. You at the John Birch Society, a long history defending the Constitution, promoting limited government, individual liberty, personal responsibility, and that's what JBS has been doing. We'll talk more about that in a second. There's been some disturbing stories that for some reason, I think we've lost the fact that what our First Amendment gives us the right to do. The First Amendment is freedom of the press. It's also freedom of speech. The press means if you want to go out as a Nick Shirley and do some journalism, you should be able to do that without physical harm being put upon you. There's a story here about a conservative journalist recently dragged in a car in Minneapolis. They took his camera, they drug him along. Department of Justice says they're on it. It's Nick Sorter is the name of the reporter. And the left doesn't seem to condemn that. The department almost killed for. And then you have on the other invades a church, probably has created crimes. And that's what freedom of the press is. Freedom of the press in the American left's head is disrupting a house of worship and terrorizing the people in the house of worship, but freedom of the press is not being investigated, reported to try to find waste, fraud, and abuse. We seem to need some education on what the First Amendment, sir, is all about.
Fair enough. Yes. I mean, let's go back to simply when the founders got together and started forming this country. They had left a king that, and otherwise, was kind of the antithesis of all of this. They had a monarchy. You had to follow everything that the king had. So it was also, flavored with all this dictatorial punishment and edicts and all that sort of thing. They wanted to get away from all of that, Jim. And when they founded the country, they wanted people to be free to do those sort of things that they wanted to do. What the left has really done is sort of started co-opting all of that stuff. They're just trying to get shots on goal. They're trying to be disruptive. And we've talked, among ourselves quite a bit about something called the pincer strategy. It's sort of this warlike strategy where you have pressure from below and pressure from above. And I want to kind of give folks that are watching a real-time example of how this works. You have all of these protesters in the streets, whether it's in New York City or over in Minneapolis, and you have the street level protest. That's kind of the pressure from below. But then you have folks in media or folks in government coming in from over the top, like Don Lemon, and going into this church, and it creates this pressure system. And the goal here is never the issue. It's always the revolution. And what they actually are trying to get us to is a national police force. If you remember back during the Obama administration, there was actually this whole concept of the national policing standards. Now, while I don't, and the Birch Society doesn't believe that every police officer is going to be wearing the same uniform with the same patch on their shoulder or anything like that, but they can certainly do it through dangling grants and money in front of everybody, dangling these national policing standards in front of everybody, and get them all doing the same thing. And the moral of this story and this analogy is no dictator was ever successful without a national police force. And if you go to the jbs.org, under our action plans, we have something called the Support Your Local Police. That's what we see that is really playing out here in Minneapolis. We saw it, back during the George Floyd. And I don't think people should forget that you have a attorney general in Minnesota, the head cop in Minnesota, just like Pam Bondi. Keith Ellison is the version of Pam Bondi in Minnesota, who is a leftist. He's attached at the hip to the Obama crowd and all of that. And that's why you don't see these things getting prosecuted. This is why you see the fraudster who got off with like a $7.2 million fraud scheme. Wasn't, the judge let him off. They have really worked the system well, and I give them credit for that. I totally disagree with what they did, but they have worked the system. So you have no accountability through the judicial system. You have the fraud that's funding it all through these daycares and through these non-emergency medical transport companies. It's the same thing, I think, what happened over in Ukraine also. But there's a lot going on. I don't mean to be long-winded, but I think it deserves a little bit bigger treatment, I think.
Yeah. The voice of Tim Martin. And again, Tim, if you can't hear me, I'm having technical issues. My computer is going to hell in a handbasket in front of me all the whole show. So I'm there. So I hope I didn't interrupt you, but I want the longer explanation. You're talking about the National Police Force. You're talking about these police standards. I'm going back to the days of COVID. I'm going back to the days of Tim Walz sending National Guard troops down through neighborhoods and shooting pellets at people, saying, "Get in the house, get off your own front porch." And we tolerated that, and we tolerate so much. We tolerate because we're told, "Oh, Don Lemon, he's just practicing freedom of speech." No, we don't have to tolerate that. Nick Sorter, he's getting treated. We as a people need to be educated that and maybe the government used COVID as a way to find out just how far they could push us by making us stay locked down. Because why? Dr. Fauci said we had to stay locked down. Was that almost kind of a test run, or they took some devout notes and said, maybe?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, you remember, never let a good crisis go to waste. But some of these things are deliberately done. And they are, yes, they're taking notes, and they are sending these different trial balloons up and seeing how we react. That's just strategy. That's That's how these things sort of work. So yes, I'm really surprised. I know they wouldn't have gotten away with that in my church. I could I could tell you that. But you know, it is. I am certain once the whole thing kind of pans out, I am certain that there were people in that church before this all went down on Sunday where they were scoping it out. They were trying to figure it out. You know, there's some, the strategy is, you know, you go in and you sit separately so that it looks a little more spontaneous when one person jumps up over here and one person jumps up over there. It's this appearance of, you know, more support than there really is, because if everybody comes in together, it's sort of viewed as just as one enemy. But you know, you have this disbursement, it makes it look a little bit harder to deal with. And you're right, I am kind of getting a little bit of feedback, so maybe I'm just
No, that's all on my end, my computer, and
no.
Some things are going through my headphones, some things are playing on computer screens. I don't know what's happening, but we're going to make it through.
That stuff.
It's crazy. I'm not complaining. I kind of am. Breaking news, though, Tim Martin. Federal authorities have now announced this morning, Pam Bondi just announced this morning, they have arrested 2 anti-ICE agitators, the first of many, they think, after the mob stormed a church in St. Paul, Minnesota. Bondi is naming Nakima Levi Armstrong and Chantil Louisa Allen as a suspect. Cash Patel says the pair are charged with violating the FACE Act, which prohibits interfering with the exercise of religion at a place of worship. And this happened just a moment ago on Pam Bondi's X feed. Minutes ago at my direction, HSI and FBI agents executed an arrest in Minnesota. So far, we have arrested these 2 people who allegedly, a second arrest has been made at my direction. And all of the couching of the words is, so far, we've gotten these 2, implying that there's going to be some more arrests coming. She says, we will share more updates as they become available. And in bold letters in all caps, she says, we do not tolerate attacks on places of worship. Give me your thoughts. Maybe some accountability coming out there finally?
Yeah, I in my walk and the people that I talk with, Jimmy, everybody wants people in jumpsuits and chains, and they're done with the talking. They're done with the talking. I want to see the state, you know, pull up here and really, you know, make an example out of these folks. I'm maybe a little bit leery about it being on a federal issue, but since it is within a state, if it crossed state line, you know, that's kind of a nuanced part of it. But I don't know that, you know, if it's left to the state here in Minnesota in this example, that they're going to necessarily do much, because again, you know, going back to what I was saying earlier about this Keith Ellison, kind of lets all that stuff slide. Nobody gets prosecuted, or people just get let off. But you know, these folks, it's kind of funny. You know, they want to be arrested to some certain extent because they're going to play that up in the media. They're going to go set up the GoFundMe account now, and they're going to launder a little bit more money here and there on these sort of things. I think people are wising up to the game. I'm really super happy that they are, because frankly, once you see a couple of these just kind of main building blocks, all the other stuff is just a retread of the same kind of issue there. It's like watching a football team where you see them, they're running the ball all the time. It's the same kind of play, different actors, maybe a little bit different result, but it's all sort of the same basic stuff.
I think you bring up a great point that we all should probably consider, is that as you're watching the protesters, whether they're burning down Minneapolis during the George Floyd riots or the Renee Good ICE protests, all this stuff, they do have, I mean, first of all, a lot of them are probably paid agitators. We need to find out where they're getting their money and how they're out there day after day. IRS look into that, or somebody look into that, because they're getting paid for this. But I think you bring up a great point. We have to look at the end results. They're hoping they want causation. They want something else to happen. And maybe it's a GoFundMe page. Maybe they want a national police state. You got to get back and say, it ain't just about their anger right now and their rioting and destruction and throwing frozen water bottles at people. They're looking for a causation. And we have to know what that is. And then we can kind of better understand how to tamp it down.
Yeah, it's all about the revolution. It's never about the issue. The immediate issue is just the vehicle that they get there. And if you look at these signs, they're all pre-printed. At the bottom, they say the Party for Socialism and Liberation. If you go to the pslweb.org website that they have on there, you can see that it's a Marxist organization, just like, you know, the admitted BLM rioters. You know, that was sort of a Marxist, and the broader picture for folks to understand is just the undermining of America. That's why you see the attacks on the church, the attacks on family, the attacks on mortgages to keep people, out of the middle class. All of these are underpinnings of the American experience and what makes us America. They have to undermine all of those pillars that make this a great nation. And the middle class was one of those pillars. And that's why you see the attacks on all of the middle class to create the separation, because socialism gets us to the haves, have-nots. And that middle class doesn't exist there, so they got to get rid of it. The haves are going to be the controlling class. The have-nots are going to be the controlled class, and they're going to enforce it with actual use of force. That's where it spills over to communism, like Lenin spoke to us so clearly about.
Tim Martin, JBS Director of Marketing. I appreciate you hopping on. Folks can go to your website. It's going to pop on the screen here, jbs.org. And there's lots of action plans, lots of ways for people to get involved, lots of ways to educate yourself. Tim, if they go there, you mentioned a couple of things people could sign up or learn about, especially about local law enforcement. Real quick, go.
Sure. Under the main menu, you'll see all of our action projects there. Support your local police was the one I referenced specifically earlier, but there's all kinds of stuff to just search around. You'll find it.
jbs.org. Tim Martin, appreciate you hopping on again today. jbs.org. Go check out their website. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a Thursday edition. Those of you who watch the show, listen to the show, even on radio back in the day, you know that Thursday's a day that we're oftentimes honored with the presence of Jay Ratliff, aviation and travel expert, also day trader extraordinaire. He'll teach you how to day trade if you want to take his class. But Jay Ratliff, welcome to the program, sir. Happy Thursday.
A pleasant good morning to you, my friend.
Well, I started the show talking to an audience across the stage. Thousands of earballs hear this show. Eyeballs see it every day and throughout the day. And some people will be listening in the afternoon. And in some of these places, the snow, the sleet, the ice is going to start falling. It looks like if you're going to be traveling, you might want to start figuring out your alternatives in certain areas.
It's an absolute going to be a mess. And thankfully, it's January 23rd, 4th. It's going to be impacted, not in December, because if this happened a month ago, boy, it would have been just even more of an issue. Look, when you have Dallas, a place you frequent often, when they're looking at 20 hours of freezing rain, ice accumulation, and snow, it's going to be a mess there for that American Airlines hub. Houston also going to be looking at issues Saturday into Sunday with the same sort of freezing rain and ice. So United's adjusting their schedules accordingly. And that system's going to move up through the Northeast. And as it plows through the country, I think Atlanta's going to be okay other than some rain. But I tell you, Jimmy, it's going to be a mess. And airlines have already taken the step of amending their flight schedules. It's one thing, as you know, in Denver or wherever, if there's a lot of snow, we can still operate. We just operate more slowly. We keep a single runway normally cleared off for arrivals, departures, and the crew there in Colorado, they do a very, very good job of maintaining adequate runway conditions so we can take off and land. The problem is when you're dealing with ice and layers of ice, then you have airplanes that are taxiing off, sliding off of runways, taxiways. There's issues coming into the gate many times. And that's when it becomes an issue of danger for the people on the ground, as well as aircraft damage. So we're already seeing airlines cancel a great number of flights. They're also issuing and have issued a winter waiver, which means if you're traveling to or through any of these affected areas, they'll waive the change fee so that you can rebook it for a later time. Also, you want to make sure the airlines have a way of getting a hold of you, because there may be a situation where they contact you and say, look, you're scheduled to fly through Dallas, but we're going to do what's called an online reroute. We're going to route you to your destination through another American hub, which might be through Chicago. So again, if the airlines have a way to get a hold of you, that's great. And American just rolled out on their mobile app, Jimmy, something that's great. It allows you during times of a regular operation, like we're about to see over the weekend, if your flight itinerary has been impacted with a delay or cancellation, you receive an immediate notification, and then through their app, they'll give you alternatives. Cancel, here's another flight you can look at or whatever. They'll also, within that app, give you food vouchers if they apply. Also, the hotel accommodations, boom, instant. You need ground transportation, it's right there. So wow. no need to get in a long line begging for something after being in line for an hour and a half trying to reach a customer service representative. So Americans always been on the first of about everything. First frequent flyer program, first Super Saver fare, the first airline to roll out computers to travel agencies, all of these things. And look, I hope other airlines follow through on this, because yes, I know why Americans doing it. More IT means less personnel. They can cut their head costs, but it is something for a traveler that is very, very useful.
You sent me two stories that deal with Lufthansa Airlines. I've never flown Lufthansa. I've heard good things about it for the most part. One is about the old lithium battery that we talk about oftentimes and the problems that they have, and why they give these warnings all the time about watch out for your cell phone if it falls between a seat, don't leave it. All the lithium batteries can be a problem. But then you also sent one about Lufthansa and their sleeper row. And as a guy who travels internationally and not always in the front of the plane, sometimes I'm in the back with everybody else. Sleeper rows, sir. Let's talk about Lufthansa batteries and sleeper rows.
Well, on the lithium battery side, you can go to YouTube or any social media site. Many times you can do a search for these things overheating and igniting. And it's scary how fast they catch fire, and it achieves a great deal of heat very fast. Lufthansa is following the lead of many airlines, saying, look, you're allowed to bring these charger ports on board, but you can bring no more than two. They never go and check luggage, obviously, lithium battery of any kind. But carry on, you're allowed to have two. But the change is limiting them to two, and you cannot put it in the overhead storage compartment. It has to be underneath the seat in front of you or in the seat back pocket. The reason that they're mandating this is because when these things start to smolder and overheat, you have a precious few seconds that you can notify the flight crew. They are trained as firefighters in addition to everything else. And they've got the fire suppression bags and procedures that if that thing overheats and catches fire, they can contain it. You can Google Air Busan, that's BUSAN, and there was a device that overheated at the gate while they were boarding. There's almost nothing left of the top of the airplane, nose to tail, from one device overheating, catching fire. So that's why aviation is just, I mean, look, I can't believe we're still allowing a lot of these things on the plane, but that's Lufthansa's latest change, and other airlines have adopted that, and some are moving in that direction. Now, as far as the sleeper row, they've started this a couple of years ago, and it's really catching on. If you're on a Lufthansa flight, which is the German carrier that flies all over the world, and you're on a flight of 11 hours or more, you can actually pay for an entire row. Now, what happens is, let's say that the aircraft is only 75% full. The Lufthansa executives say, how can we get more money from these passengers? So what they say is, once that door closes, we know it's a perishable product. You're not going to have any chance of making any revenue. But if you check in and there's a row, you can actually buy those 3 or 4 seats now at a discount. And they will actually give you a blanket, thin mattress, a pillow, and you can just crash there. Or look, maybe you just got a lot of work. You want to spread out, or you don't like people sitting next to you. It's cheaper than sitting in first class, business class, where you get, all the pampering and the seats that are better than a little thin mattress. But it's really catching on with a lot of travelers, because look, you and I remember the day years ago when you get on a plane, it's 48% full, pick your row, lay down for free. Yeah. But now Lufthansa found a way to generate money from those free seats, and it really works out well. And it's gotten to the point where it doesn't delay the boarding process too much. You can't do this in advance. You have to wait till you get to the airport so that at the last minute, they can see which rows are available. And at the gate or ticket counter, you can buy at a discount that entire row of seats.
I have traveled. We just put a picture up on the screen. I've traveled enough. Sometimes I get an empty row, and I get it, and I still can't find a way to get comfortable in those 3 seats. It's tough. I mean, yeah.
Well, at least here you get a thin mattress, which might make it a little bit. Remember, those seats are never designed for comfort. Airlines buy those seats because they're approved by in the United States, the FAA, and they have to be safe. They have to be crash resistant. They have to have fire retardants, all the things that play into that. But they're light, and that's what airlines like, because the lighter they are, the less wet fuel that is required. So they're never designed for comfort, unless we're getting up to some of the plush seats. I don't even think the economy plus seats are comfort. They just give us more leg room. But the first class seats aren't too bad.
Yeah.
Some of them are pretty nice, but they can't make them super nice. I'd like it like the theater, where you just kick them out, you just kind of sit back or whatever you want. Problem is those seats take up too much room. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the report, but there was a Jefferies Financial Services that did a survey or did a calculation saying that the big four airlines of American, United, Delta, Southwest could save $580 million a year as more people are losing weight with this, Ozempic or whatever the drug loss thing is called. So the less we weigh, the more they make. You'd think that maybe we might get a reduction in fares. I don't think so.
I doubt it. That's amazing. I see that story. Weight loss drugs could actually save airlines $580 million a year. And you and I probably not going to see much fare discount.
And keep in mind, United just reported profits earlier this week for the last quarter of $1 billion in a single quarter. Delta did the same thing. $1 billion in a single quarter. I remember airlines couldn't make money in an entire year. Now these big boys are raking in $1 billion plus. Yeah. Now they might even make more because we're getting in better shape.
I've got a buddy that watches the show. He works for Southwest at Denver International, and he always points out, talking about the storm, and we'll wrap up. And you sent me too many good topics today. I want to get to all of them, but you've got real life to do. He always points out that at Denver, and I don't know if it's this way at every airport, most of the airlines at Denver use like a central de-icing service. Southwest has their own, and so they're de-icing and the delays on flights during the winter storms are much less than the other airlines because Southwest takes ownership by staffing their own de-icing station. Is that common that airlines do that?
It's not common, and that's what makes the situation in Denver so nice. Now it's not unique, but you rarely don't see the airlines doing that because airlines are very cheap. Yeah. And a lot of times when the push is staggered, sometimes you've got the Southwest flights leaving here, then here comes the Delta flights, here comes United. We do have sometimes where they're all in the morning pushing out at the same time. But look, we used to de-ice at the gate. It would pull up and and the fluid would go wherever. And then all the fish started turning blue and green in the local creek. And they're like, we can't do that. So they put us at these remote pads. And most of the time it's one service all. Yeah. But when you've got those few airports that have the dedicated de-icing pads, and they're more numerous than I'm making it out to be, but it's not the norm typically for aviation, and that's great to see it. I just wish Southwest would spend some of that money on their employees and updating their computers and things like that, because that way they can provide a better experience. Southwest is doing a lot of really good things and pointing things in the right way. I just hope it continues.
Yep. Jay Ratliff, aviation travel expert. One more warning: if you're going to be hitting this massive winter storm, what areas are you paying most attention to for the delays and cancellations?
Well, really, for the next, it's supposed to kick in late Friday, not tomorrow night, and then into Saturday. But you're talking about Texas for sure as it moves up through the central part of the country. And you may be flying from Denver to the West Coast and think, hey, I'm going to be okay. But if these aircraft that you're going to be scheduled on are being routed to or through any of these affected areas, you could be impacted. So for anybody flying over the next 3 days, 4 days, make sure the airlines have a way to get a hold of you so that if your itinerary is impacted, you can be contacted by them and be offered whatever they're offering at the time. Now, keep in mind, when you are notified of a flight cancellation, do not assume it's weather. Ask them, why is this flight canceled? Because if it's a mechanical situation, late arriving crew that's not impacted by weather, then the compensation that passengers receive is different. Weather's an act of God. Airlines throw up their hands, say we can't do anything about it. But a lot of times if it's mechanical delays, cancellations, those types of things, a different thing. So please pin them down. And if they don't give you the answer you like, complain to dot.gov. Let the Department of Transportation go knock on the airline's door to get you an answer as far as why it wasn't followed as they should have.
Jay Ratliff, always a pleasure, sir. Great topics today. I appreciate you spending a couple of extra seconds with us. jratliff.com. Go to his website. You'll see a lot about day trading. By the way, departmentoftransportation.gov. Jay always says if you have trouble, go there because the government then requires your airline, whatever the case may be, to give a written response to you and answer the questions. So they hate it when you go to dot.gov, and so you might want to do that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a couple of minutes over time, but I appreciate Jay sticking around. We were going to talk flying cars. I got photos of a new flying car that's being talked about. Yeah, I'll carry that over from to next week. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the stolen meme section of the show. See what I have in my hand? It's the globe. Get ready for that. Prepare your hearts. But right now, let me remind you once again, homeswithsherry.com. Sherry Cree, great friend of the program. Many of you at the Lakey Roadshow event in Colorado this past week got to meet Sherry. I hope that you will consider that call ASAP. Again, it's all about strategy. Maybe you're 4, 5, 6 months away from buying, selling. Maybe you're wanting a rental property. Maybe you're a home. Whatever it is, don't wait till the last minute. Don't just assume that your next door neighbor or your Aunt Susie is the best person to list your home. You need to do your homework and get the right person to do it. It's not about putting a sign in the yard. It's the overall strategy. And Sherry's going to help you get that strategy. And she approaches whatever you're doing in real estate, buying, selling, second home, third home, upsizing, downsizing, whatever. She believes that every real estate transaction can be something if you play right. She believes that real estate overall can help you have generational wealth for your kids, your grandkids. So make the right decision. Talk to Sherry. If you maybe you got a kid out there, maybe you think you're never going to be able to own a home. Maybe you're one of those keyboard warriors in the basement because I'm never home ownership's out of my reach. There are some programs. Colorado's very expensive. Jared Polis has really screwed this state up, but there are some programs to make home ownership in Colorado a lot more possible. Just reach out to Sherry, have a conversation, a strategy session, if you will. And don't forget, not only is she a great realtor, but she's a great person. She discounts her commissions to anybody who's an active military personnel or a veteran. She also donates a portion of her proceeds every time she sells a home to the charity of your choice. If you're her client, she'll donate to the charity of your choice out of her pocket. Homeswithsherry.com. She's been to Africa. She's seen our Legacy Christian Academy School, and we always love having her on the program. She should be with us tomorrow. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. Be sure to tell her that Jimmy Lakey is talking about her. You heard about her here. Give her a call. Homeswithsherry.com. No obligation, but you're going to get a lot of information. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, let's do it. Stolen memes. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This year, I'm proud of myself for never having tried a drop of alcohol. An occasional bottle or old-fashioned, sure, but a drop, never. There you have it. Producer Chad and I have no clue what that's talking about. What? We don't even get it. Well, round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Politicians who want open borders pulling into their gated communities after their long 2-hour shift down to the Capitol. That's true. And they have access to Capitol security as well. Capitol Police can protect them. So open the borders. That's what they say. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. A therapist says, what do we say to people to let them know we're welcoming them into our lives? Me, I say, buckle up, biatch. So I clean that up a little bit, Delilah. Therapist, no, that's not really what you say. Yeah. And you wonder why your children curse. They see you passing memes around like this. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. I believe this came from Linda, one of our viewers out there. I forward him always to producer Chad if he doesn't see him. There's Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado. There are dumb arses, and then there are Colorado Democrats. Truth bomb right there. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. I don't rise and shine for anymore. I freaking crawl out of my blanket burrito, chug caffeine like it's holy water, pray I don't throat punch someone before 10 a.m. All these memes makes us all remember we're getting to that place in life of get off my lawn. I'm a very pleasant person. I'm a happy warrior. Yeah, I can make it till 3 before I throat punch someone. Round and round the globe we go. That's why Delilah gets off work at 2:30. If your city bans straws but hands out free needles, you're being governed by idiots. Truth bomb, once again. Again, illustrate absurdity. It's true. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Here we go. I believe this came from one of the listeners. I don't remember who. I apologize for not giving you credit. Maybe several people send these things in. Meanwhile, preparations for the winter storm are underway in Texas. There they are, prepping the roads there with the Texas Department of Barbecue Sauce, spraying the roads there. You know, if you got enough habanero or pepper in that barbecue sauce, that wouldn't melt the ice. Never mind. I like it, though. It's just a shame to see all that barbecue sauce go to waste. Shame. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. China has decided that we can no longer steal intellectual property for the day because we're getting too good at it, and we want to leave some intellectual property for the Chinese to see. Oh, Stacy Miller Pratt. She sent the barbecue sauce. I knew it came from somewhere, but yeah, Stacy gets credit for it. She's stepping up and go, me, please pay attention. She's, yeah. I like to give credit where credit is due. I like to. So, Stacy, thank you for the memes. We appreciate it. All right, tomorrow morning we should be back here. Good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise, and no ice storm predicted here. If you are part of an ice storm, watch the weather. As Jay Ratliff said, call the airlines, check and see if your flights are delayed. Even if you're not in the southeast and the south of the country, it could still be affected by it. So you might want to pay attention over the weekend. The next 3 days of travel could be rather adventuresome here in all across America with that ice swath sucking up a lot of the south and the southeast. So be careful out there if you're traveling. Check it, even if you're going west, it doesn't matter. The flights, you could have planes stuck and can't get out, and that it could be the plane you're supposed to use to go to the tropical paradise. So just check with the airlines and make sure the airlines can get in touch with you. All right, don't forget Rivers promised today, and I'd like you to know, you say, Jimmy, you keep asking for food. How much does food cost? I've got some details that my guy sent me this morning. I asked, give me the details. If somebody just wants to buy a bag of rice, because we have big bags of rice, how much would that cost them? How much would it cost them to buy some eggs for the kids? How much would it cost them to buy? I've got all the details. It's coming up in an email. Go to riverspromise.org. Sign up for our email list on there. Scroll down. Get on the list, and we'll be sending that out later today. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Jimmy Lakey. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I hope the sound audio quality has not been too bad today. It's all screwed up in my ears, but I don't know. It seems like it all worked. Everybody could hear me. I'm just hearing all sorts of things as I talk. God bless you. God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.